all of those gifts, they are meant for us to do something with them, to create something.
Yes.
And the purpose and the end goal with those gifts is to benefit the church, benefit the people, do something that's greater than you.
Hey there, welcome to the Culture Architects Podcast. Today we have a very special episode for you. We're going to be introducing you to one of our new Culture Studios podcast hosts, and he's been a great friend of mine for 4 to 5 years. He's a life coach. He's been writing ebooks, e-courses, a missionary. He's just been doing incredible work. And so today I want to introduce you to Luis Garcia. So how you doing, man?
So good to see you. So good to talk to you and be a part of this.
Yeah, man. And so tell me what you're up to now, what you're kind of doing, what are things that you're kind of up to, and you know, so you're starting this new podcast, but kind of tell me kind of a little bit about yourself to the people that don't know you.
This time has been amazing, man. Like I grew up just having dreams of playing professional baseball.
Right.
Grew up in Puerto Rico, grew up just having just those big dreams, aspiring to do great things. And that's how I came to the US. I came just looking to play baseball professionally. So I was able to play baseball in college and then pursue professional baseball for a little bit. And after, you know, God takes you so many different ways and he does so many different things. And, you know, I met you, I met some great people at church. He opened doors for me to travel and speaking to people and coach them. And that's where I'm at right now. So this idea of inspiring people came from that dream that I had as a baseball player and now just pouring into other people. So that's kind of like where I've been, what I've been doing. And right now, recently, me and my wife, we are here in Lakeland in Florida, and she works as a nurse. She is studying super hard, so she's amazing. And I'm working both doing this, but also I have a career as well in finance.
That's awesome, man. And what's cool is, so we got connected. We were working at a church together. You were a pastor. I was a media guy. And, we would go back and forth. We worked together, so we built some live stream stuff at your church and, did a bunch of different things and like after COVID, and so, because we went through COVID together, then we went all the way through and then we built different things. And so what's cool too is, you started releasing some courses, some ebooks and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was talking to Vinny and Lance, and this was probably even before you actually did that. And I was like, man, like this guy would be really cool, like to bring on kind of part of us, but didn't know really where it fit. Right. And, cause at the time we were just doing one podcast. We were kind of more of a shirt company, things like that. But then, as guys started unraveling the vision, we're like, hey, we want to do a content house, right? With like, Christian creators, like things like that. And then what's crazy is as we're starting to kind of develop that, you start releasing your ebooks and your courses.
Look at that.
And I was like, wait a second, like this is on brand, like this is what we want to do. And so what's crazy is we contacted you. I think it would have been like last September, maybe. I think
it was towards the last maybe 3-4 months of last year.
Yeah. And and so we were trying to, okay, what can we do to launch? And so we started going over some things. We, me, you and Lance talked and so, kind of heard your heart. And then I know y'all ended up meeting, he came down to Lakeland, y'all ended up seeing him and having dinner with him. And so what's cool is kind of
amazing guy.
Yeah. Lance is awesome, man. And so what's cool is kind of got aligned, like kind of where you were going and what you were wanting to do. And because I remember when we first had a phone call and I was like, hey, would you be interested in this? You're like, I actually was wanting to start a podcast, and so it's like everything just kind of lined up. And so it's kind of cool to see kind of where we were going and then where you went, and they kind of crossed because, in the beginning we were just running one podcast here. And so there wasn't really a lot of like, where are we going to go? And then just recently we kind of launched like all the other shows and everything as a conglomerate. And so, so you're going to be starting a brand new podcast. And so tell us a little bit about that. It's called The Dreams Factory. It's going to launch, I think, August 2nd. And so tell us a little bit about that.
So The Dreams Factory comes from that idea of building people's dreams. And it's some things that God has been speaking to me in the last few years about just giving and pouring into other people's dreams. And I for some reason, ever since I was a little child, I've always dreamed a lot. And I had this big things that I wanted to accomplish. And I feel like throughout the years, I've been able to either empower other people to
Mm,
dream or at least help them see things with more clarity. So that's where the Dreams Factory came from that idea of, okay, like where are dreams made, or like
yes.
where's somewhere that things are made, a
Yeah.
factory.
Right.
And then, I put it together, Dreams Factory, and that's the whole idea behind it, is how can we take any dream, whether you're younger than me, older than me, but
Hmm.
how can we take those dreams and put practical and biblical principles, apply them, and have better chances of getting to those dreams?
Yeah, I love that. And because even seeing in your life, like, because have you kind of pioneered things? Because like you went into one field and then you kind of said, okay, hey, I want to do this thing, and you started kind of branching in, and then now you're kind of a life coach and you're doing that thing, and now you're starting this podcast. And so seeing that even come in you and come alive in you, the dreams you've had, like
Mhm.
you were saying with the baseball, and kind of just the different things you've been able to do with that. And so give us a little sneak peek of the first episode, and kind of tell us kind of
Mhm.
what we can expect from that.
Yeah, so the first episode, it's I was thinking about when we start a dream or we start going after things that we want. Most of the time, the thing that stop us, it's what's going on in our mindset.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, hey, there's nothing that we can accomplish if our mindset is not right.
Mm,
And I was thinking about different things that right now as a society we go through. And one of those things is doubt, self-doubt.
mm,
What may be because of past experiences or past failures, or what
mm,
people have said about you, or what you say about you. So that first episode is all about self-doubt. How can we deal? How can we manage it? We're always going to face it, right?
yeah.
Because there's things that happen that we cannot control, that unfortunately they might be negative experiences or things
Mm,
like that. But how can we manage it? How can we deal with it? And how can we, instead of allowing self-doubt to kill that dream, how
yeah.
can you use self-doubt or like get over it
Mm.
so that you can get to your dream?
I love that, man. And I think that goes in so much hand in hand with what you're saying with dreams. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times we'll stifle our dreams, our aspirations because of self doubt,
Right.
that can manifest in so many different ways. Self doubt can really manifest in imposter syndrome. It can, all these types of
Yeah.
different things, and it can really kill you from stepping out. And I think that's great,
Hmm.
because I mean, that is one of the root causes of why people are, get older and they say, "Oh, I wish I would have done," but it's just they never really had it. They never believed it in
Hmm.
them, or they just can't. Like, I can't do this. It's not me, you know.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
love
And
that, man.
the crazy thing about self-doubt is that it doesn't only affect the goals that you have,
Mm,
it affects everything else. Like how many people we've seen in their marriages
yeah.
where, they're doubting whether it's gonna work out,
Oh my
or
gosh,
their
yeah.
careers. It doesn't only has to be with dreams. Like
That's
there's
good.
so many other areas where self-doubt can have an impact in our lives.
Mm.
And that's why I'm passionate about that. And that's why it's the first episode.
Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, I mean, and when you said that the marriages, man, it's so true, because just that little bit of doubt over time just snowballs, and it can cause so many issues in a marriage and relationships, and
Hmm.
everything down the line. Because you're right, it doesn't just affect
Hmm.
dreams; it affects everything in between. And so that's great. So
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
your second episode is created to create. So give us a little tidbit on that.
Yeah, so with that one, I thought about the book of Genesis,
Mm,
and I looked at how God started. What was the first glimpse that God gave us about himself? And it was that he created. So before he ever performed a miracle, Jesus performed a miracle before he ever created, before God created humans and created all these other things. It says that, the spirit was moving,
hmm.
and then he was moving and it was empty, so he created.
Mm,
And the first glimpse that he gave us about himself was creation, right? He created. And 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 I thought, man, we are meant to create. We have been created by a God who's a creator for us to create as well. So how can we use our God-given talents to create things that are gonna move the church forward, but also are going to do amazing things for this world. Like even though we as Christians we believe that we are in this world, right? But we don't
Yeah,
belong to this
it's
world.
good.
But while we're in this world, let's impact it.
Yes.
Let's do some great things. Let's have some positive impact so that we can make those around us better.
Man, I love that, man. I mean, that's good. And at the end of the day, because I so identify with it because, as a self-identified creative, I love creating.
Yeah.
I love collaborating, and one of those things is like, it's innately in me. But the thing that I've
Mhm.
always said is it's innately in everyone because it's the nature of our God. I think a lot of times people
Yeah.
think they're not creative because they don't fit in, the artist bubble or the photography bubble, or the whatever, but you
Mhm.
still create. God gave you creative things. Just because you're
Mhm.
not in the creative bubble doesn't mean you're not creative. You
Yeah,
know,
and you know what I think, man? I think that we can never live to our fullest potential if we're not using our creative gifts.
I love
And
that.
and that is and that is because if God made us, like you said, in his image, there's a part of us that will never feel complete unless
Mm-mm.
we are creating. And it doesn't have to be something super complex. It doesn't have to be something that's crazy that no one has ever seen,
Right.
but we all have the capacity to create something. And I believe that if we're not creating, we're not living to our fullest potential.
Man, that'll preach, bro. That is so true. And I've seen that in my own life because, when I've gotten busy and things like that, I'll stop creating, right? I'll stop being, kind
Mhm.
of, how I am, I'm constantly trying to do things and tinker and everything. And when I stop doing that, it's crazy how things just start shriveling up around me. Like it's just crazy how
Yeah.
like life kind of starts to go, and it's very much connected to the nature of God, and that's how He
Mhm.
speaks to me is through creation, through creativity. And when I stop
Mhm.
using that, it's almost like everything kind of around me goes, well, what's going on? Like
Yeah.
I don't feel connected, don't feel it, and it's all because I kind of snipped that cord for a time, because I got to work and things like that. So one thing I've done is I always am in dreaming because I believe that's a little bit a part of creativity is planning,
Yeah.
dreaming, and saying, okay, hey, what can I think, creative dreams, that type of thing, and then saying,
Mhm.
creative plans, and that in and of itself is creativity. And then the
Yeah.
other side is implementing it is also creative because you have to creatively figure out how you're going to do the creative thing. And so I think,
Mhm.
just like you said, like as long as you're exercising that gene and that innate nature, then life's going to flow through you and all that stuff's going to flow through you. I love that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think about Paul, how he talks about the gifts, right?
Yes.
And all of those gifts, they are meant for us to do something with them, to create
Yes.
something.
Yes.
And the purpose and the end goal with those gifts is to benefit the church,
Yes.
benefit the people, do something that's greater than you.
Yeah.
And I think that so many times we don't start something or we don't
Mm.
create because we see that, oh, it's already created, or someone
Yes.
else is already doing it, or
Yes.
I'm not gonna be able to do it to the same capacity that they're doing it. But if God gave you a gift and
Right.
he put something in you, it's for you to create,
That's
because
good, man.
you never know. There's enough people in the world to be impacted by what you have inside of you.
That's really good, man. I love it, man. So tell me a little bit. So we kind of touched on it a little bit. So you're a life coach now. So kind of give me an idea of what that kind of looks like for you, and kind of even maybe how you're kind of implementing that into your podcast and kind of in what you're doing.
Yeah, so what I do, I just love having conversations. And I think about my time that I've been serving in ministry, and I've thought about other conversations that I have with young people, older people, and it comes down to this. It comes down to how can I be a good listener and empower them, or give them what I see that God can do in them.
Right.
How can I motivate them, inspire them? So when I do coaching, or when I do leadership sessions with different people, the main thing is just to listen to
Yeah.
where they are, what God has done in their lives, what are those things that they're passionate about. And then from there, help develop practical things that they can use, but also spiritual things, how to
Yeah.
how to create, like we've talked about, how to deal with the things that go in our minds, how
Yeah.
to be able to be just more efficient with the things that we do. But a lot of it has to do with listening, and just being able to know their hearts, but also share your heart with them and be that connection between what God wants for them and where they are. Because sometimes when we're going through difficult moments where it's so hard for us to see where God is taking us, that we might need someone else to partner with us and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, this is what God is doing. This is what He can do." So that's what I do.
Yeah, I love that, man, and it also gives them kind of the, the two or more. You get somebody that kind of shares your faith and is excited about what God has for you and what God has in store for
Mhm.
you, and I love that, man. So, and then the other thing is, another thing you've been doing a lot is mission trips and going and helping different churches, in different countries. So, tell us a little bit about that. What you've been able to do there.
Yeah, so mission trips have been probably the thing that has changed my life the
Mm.
most. I started going on mission trips whenever I was in college. I believe as a junior was my first mission trip. And so far, I've been to 16 countries,
Wow,
all in Latin America.
wow,
And I've been able to just see different perspectives about church and
yeah,
see different things about how God works in those areas and how people work in those areas.
mm,
And we've been able to partner in so many different ways, whether yes, there's the spiritual need, but there's the practical need.
yeah,
There's the bringing of medicine or food or clothing. There's so many aspects that in my opinion, everyone who's a Christian should try to go on a mission trip
yeah,
at least once in their lifetime because it's going to change your whole perspective.
hmm,
Whether that is going to a different country or doing local missions, I think that that's so needed in our nation today. So I've been blessed, like I said, blessed to be able to go on to all those countries and looking forward to other countries in the future.
yeah, man. I love it, man. I love your heart for it, and I love seeing all the different trips you go on and everything, and seeing the social media, and seeing the impact that you guys are having, in those countries, and it's just, yeah, it's awesome, man. So all right, so
Mhm.
wrapping kind of all this in, so what are you really wanting to see with your podcast, with the Dreams Factory? What are you wanting to see kind of people come away with it? What are some things that you're wanting to see that you feel like, when someone listens to it and kind of engages with it, what are you wanting to see kind of in their lives and come through your podcast?
Yeah, so like I said before, I what I'm hoping and praying that people get out of the podcast is first clarity,
Mm,
because I think that for a dream to work, for something to be accomplished, there has to be clarity.
yeah,
So I want people to be able to listen to the podcast, gain some clarity, be empowered, be inspired, motivated, and feel ready to go after their dreams. So that's why we're gonna be just talking about having conversations about principles from the Bible, experiences that I've gained that other people have gained through their years serving, whether in the marketplace as business owners, in
yeah,
church, because there's so many dreams when we think about them.
mm,
And we're gonna be talking about experiences, principles, and strategies, because sometimes, yes, like I said before, there's a spiritual aspect to it,
right,
but sometimes there's some things that practically we have to do,
mm,
because the Bible says that he blesses he looks at our plans, but he blesses our actions. So it's not only about dreaming and praying.
yeah.
Yes, that's crucial, that's super important, but there has to be some actionable steps and practical things that we do. So I want to bring value to those things as well.
I love it, man. Well, I'm excited for it, and that released on August 2nd, and that's this Wednesday coming up.
Yes.
Let's do it now, and so that's exciting, man. And yeah, can't wait to see what God does, and then we'll also have more conversations on here, and on the Culture Arctics
Mhm.
podcast, and it'll be great, man. So thanks for joining us today, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, thank you. Don't miss it.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll see you next week on the Culture Arctics podcast, and make sure you tune in for Luis's new podcast, The Dream Factory. I'll see you next time.